What did you think was common knowledge but honestly wasn't? That there are no tigers in Africa. I was on safari in Tanzania and two others in the truck were discussing how excited they would be to see tigers. I told them there weren't any and they looked all disbelieving and crestfallen, like I was spoiling their fun. They had to check with the guide. So growing up, I always saw the videos of sea turtles or other animals suffering, disfigured, or killed by plastic soda holder rings not being cut before being thrown out. This of course stuck with me, and so when I worked in an hospital kitchen, I would collect the rings from the soda restock on the shift, and simply slice each ring. One day, my co-worker asked why I did it. I explained, and he just stood there for a moment and went, "Huh, I never thought of that." My mind was blown. I thought it was common knowledge these things really jacked up wildlife. He then proceeded to tell all of our co-workers, and I was further shocked at over half of them also didn't seem to know this was an issue. Started working as a service plumber and I can't believe how many people are surprised when you say don't put grease down the drain. That's something I grew up with. The mason jar under the sink where you dumped the grease out of the pan. Too many people don't know that it shouldn't go down the drain. Frequently asked questions. Q. What's grease do to my pipes? A. Grease, fats and oils stick to the sides and solidify. This causes the inside diameter to decrease and leaves behind a sticky uneven surface that stuff can't slide over easily. This is especially bad if you use a garbage disposal. Q. What do I do with the grease if I can't dump it down the drain? A. Trash or a jar. Some people save it for cooking. Some use a jar to prevent their trash from smelling. Some simply dump it outside in the yard. Wipe the pan with a paper towel to further decrease what goes down the drain. Q. What about toilets? A. Crap and crap paper. Nothing else. No wipes. Not even the flushable ones are safe. No tampons. No pads. No diapers. No condoms. Etc. Q. Does hot water help? A. Not nearly as much as you think. Enough hot water will flush out almost anything and liquid soap can help too, but it's easier and faster to just use a jar or the trash. Apparently a lot of people don't know that pickles come from cucumbers. I've seen a lot of comments like this on Reddit. Yes, my friend is allergic to cucumbers. She ordered a sandwich and told the girl she has a cucumber allergy. She got pickles in her sandwich and extra on the plate. We were like, we said no cucumbers and the waitress said, I know. That's a pickle. When I was a kid, I thought when people got hurt, it's normal to get a shot, syringe and needles. Turns out I have hemophilia and my mom was really good at making me not feel like I was different. Dang. As a fellow hemophiliac, my parents had no qualms with letting me know how different my situation was. But they were good at helping me learn that just cause I'm different doesn't mean it's a bad thing or that I should be treated badly for it. Good on your mom though. She sounds like a great parent. Both ways work. It's all in how they execute it in the end. Used to work at a grocery store with a floral gifts department. We also handled balloons. Helium was going through a shortage at the time and as a retail supplier we were on lower priority from medical military purchases, so there was about an 8-month period where we were completely out of helium. I had some version of this conversation at least 4 times. Can I get X balloons please? I can blow you some balloons up, but they won't float. Why not? We're out of helium at the moment. Why can't you just use air? I can use that, but they won't float. Why not? No helium. What's helium? Just put less air so they are lighter. That just because someone speaks a different language doesn't mean they are deaf or hard of hearing. Speak slower? Absolutely. Speak 50 decibels louder than normal? Unnecessary. The dogs chase animals. I see so many people giving away their dogs because they're chasing my chickens. I'm done. They're prey-driven animals. That's literally what most were made to do. OMG, I once watched a show where a woman called in a dog behavior expert because she didn't know what was wrong with her purebred small terrier. She keeps chasing rodents. The expert had to explain that is exactly what this breed is meant for. How mummies were made. Growing up I was obsessed with ancient Egypt and mummies. Even better, my dad worked as a mortician and would casually tell me how the things they did prevented decay, etc. I wound up doing a presentation in 2nd grade about the process. I couldn't understand why I got sent to a counselor after that. Funnily enough, I'm now in school for archaeology and going on a dig soon. A pony is not a baby horse. I see this revelation a few times a year on Reddit. A baby horse is a foal. A pony is a small horse, typically a few different breeds. That's where Brinnies have an advantage. How to use an apostrophe. It's disturbingly common for people to automatically add in an apostrophe when they pluralize a word. Don't put laundry softener in your towel's load. The towels will retain it and be unable to absorb water properly. If you've done this already, you may need to wash your towel several times without softener to get it all out. That narwhals are really a thing. My parents thought I had read some fake online article because in what world would a unicorn whale exist? After a few minutes of looking it up on their own they realized that these weird creatures are in fact real. That girls should pee after sex. My roommate just got a UT and when I asked if she peed after sex she asked why she would do that. Guys should too. Girls have shorter urethras than guys do so are more prone to UTs cause of it. My wife's doc told us that. That you have to wash your butt in the shower and put on deodorant every day to keep from smelling like a swamp in the summer. Woo. I was reading the other responses to your comment to check if everyone else has been putting deodorant on their butt and I'm just the abnormal, then I realized what you meant. Don't flush tampons or anything that's not toilet paper. I'm looking at you, renters and city folk who came to our Christmas party. Sincerely, homeowner with a septic tank. Mixing 2 common household cleaners, bleach and ammonia, makes chloramine gas. I saw some memes saying to mix them as it makes a super cleaner and I hope no one bought into it. Chloramine. Warning label. So to add how dangerous this is, chloramine gas is lethal. Breathing it in causes irritation in the lungs and will cause chemical pneumonia. This ain't like breathing in car exhaust and you pass out and die. This hurts. A lot. While this is popular, another similar thing people do is running engines and generators in garages. Gas is the invisible killer. That the misuse of antibiotics is a legitimate issue. Had my GF tell me that she never finishes her prescriptions because they give her extras, and then if she's feeling sick in the future, she'll take the extras. Bugs the living crap out of me. My girlfriend does the same thing. If you don't finish antibiotics, you are helping create drug-resistant bacteria. Also, don't go get antibiotics for every stuffy nose you get. A lot of the time, it's just a cold, which is a virus. Antibiotics fight bacterial infections, not viruses. Every time I mention the fact that you can get ebooks and audiobooks online through your library, via Libby Overdrive, or other borrowing services depending on what your library is signed up for, there's always someone who's getting it as knowledge for the first time and is amazed. It's a great service, but they do a really bad job of advertising it. Well, I've seen it on Reddit twice now, and this is where I found out about it, and the first time it blew everyone's mind. Toasters have a tray at the bottom that you can remove to clean the breadcrumbs. I knew about this, but also I never clean it. When driving, there's something in between gassing and braking. You can coast to let the car drag and slow a little before turns, exits, to merge into slower traffic. It blows my mind how many people love to ride their brakes then get right back on the gas and then ride their brakes. I wonder how often they have to change their brakes. I could care less. Oh, could you? That birth control being 99% effective does not mean you'll get pregnant once out of 99 times having sex. That one is fairly confusingly defined though, or rather it is not clear on its own without further explanation. I can understand people having this misconception. Don't distract service dogs. Don't coo. Don't pet. Don't stare. Don't gasp. Don't point. Just ignore them. After being a service dog handler for a little over a year, people act more like they're seeing a service giraffe or something, and they don't even try to hide it. So irritating. I live in the Midwest around a lot of farmers and country folk. A whole bunch of us went out for a friend's birthday the night before Easter. The bar was playing one of those Charlton Heston movies where he was portraying Jesus. And I made a comment to my boyfriend about how I find it funny that everyone in the movie was white, considering this story was taking place in the Middle East supposedly 2000 some years ago. One of the guys in our group whipped around like someone just told him a nuclear bomb went off, and was like, "What do you mean? Of course Jesus was white. Have you seen all of the paintings in church etc." The long and short of it, I had to explain and show him that different cultures portray Jesus in the skin tone of their choosing, when in reality, if he existed, was probably a pretty dark complected dude. I'm pretty sure I ruined his night. Hoo boy, I'm a nutritionist and work in retail, so I have hundreds of these. It was a steep learning curve being exposed to the public that made me realize things I thought were glaringly obvious really aren't. Ones that stick out right now. That oil is fat. Have honestly had customers say they take oil as a protein supplement, or ask if oil has carbs. That fruit has sugar carbohydrates. That calories can only come from carbs, protein, fat, alcohol. Like, all food is made up of those three things. That's it. That's the only options. That nutrients come from food, and that's the whole point of eating. Customers often think they can do crappy meal replacement shakes or 500 calories non-food diets for months at a time and wonder how they get deficient in basic nutrients like iron or magnesium. That fish oils come from fish. Yes, I'm serious. That flour is made out of Roundup grains. And my personal favorite, that Himalaya is not a country. Customer, I need Himalayan pink salt. Me, sure. It's just in this bulk bin here. See, this is from Pakistan. Do you have one from Himalaya? MUHH. The Himalayas are a mountain range that stretch across a few countries, including Pakistan where the salt is mined. C.O. Are you very sure? M. Stares into the camera like The Office. Is butter a carb? My wife, who is a doctor, was studying for boards. She asked me when I was half asleep if I knew what smegma was, and I yawned dong cheese. I was then told for the next half hour how impossible it was for me to know that given I'm circumcised. And where did you learn that a million times, as if I was secretly a dong cheese connoisseur. No, I have no idea where I picked that up from. Either corruption from the internet or 6th grade health class. That you can't purchase an item at a discount and then return it to the store at full price. Stores are not going to give you free money for buying stuff and then returning it. They will return the money you paid. What? You paid? The number of people I had shout at me that the store was stealing their money because they did not understand this simple concept is incredible. That smaller cars with smaller engines get better gas mileage. It is to most people, but I told a girl I worked with once and she had no idea that a Jeep Cherokee was a terrible pizza delivery vehicle because it was big and heavy and a gas guzzler. New England isn't a state, it's the regroupment of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island and Connecticut. Apparently I didn't know that 2 weeks ago. This is not me, but I had a poster session for my college's senior capstone and a colleague of mine did a whole thing on how Meriwether Lewis of the Lewis and Clark duo was likely murdered and not a victim of a suicide. And pretty much everyone who came up to her poster didn't know who Lewis and Clark were, except for the professors. She told our class that when she told her own parents about the project, her mom said, "You mean the boxer?" and I just sat there dumbfounded and sad. When I visited the US in Florida when I was 13, I was asked by an American woman, "What is it like living in an igloo?" I couldn't respond because I was baffled. "We live in ice castles, lady. Do your research." People having their lives figured out. Took me a lot longer to realize that most, if not all, adults are not sure WTF they are doing. That pound cake is not just a name, but a recipe. Traditionally 1 pound flour, 1 pound sugar, 1 pound butter, 1 pound eggs, plus a dash of vanilla and salt. I was having some convo with a friend about what desserts could be made with just what's in a normal pantry, and I mentioned pound cake, and he asked for the ingredients and the recipe. I had assumed everyone knew pound cake was a recipe, so found this request somewhat odd. He'd never heard of it being a recipe. Started asking other people over the next few days. No one I asked knew about it. Never knew that. But on the other hand, I also don't think I've ever had pound cake. That Britain isn't a separate country from England. When I moved to the US, I lost count of the number of people who couldn't understand that I was both English and British. What really fricked with their heads was when I pointed out I was also European. Please explain this to the people who make Outlander. I'm so tired of their whole "the Scots are fighting the Brits" crap. People please, the Scots are British too. Sexual health and puberty knowledge. I used to read teen magazines as a kid, and the advice columns were really interesting. There were tips about sex, info about birth control, protection against STDs, and what happens when boys and girls go through a puberty. I read them all the time, every new issue that came out. I then started high school thinking everyone knew what I knew. I was shocked at how little people knew about sex, protection and puberty. I had to explain to a room full of adults what a year was in terms of planetary orbit. I was dumbfounded this wasn't common knowledge. Also, these were people who grew up not eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Clearly this has caused some lack of brain development. Heathens. That everyone knows multiplication and division hold equal weight and are solved left to right according to the order of operations. Facebook has proved this to be otherwise. That bees are female. The ones you see anyway. There are drone bees that impregnate the queen, but the worker bees are all female. Same with ants, or any hive insect. The husband and I discussed this once, and it completely blew his mind. I didn't realize he legit didn't know, so I let out a chuckle, and he thought I was making fun of his ignorance, and got super mad. Now it's a joke between us, but I was seriously confused, lol. I actually did not know that. That the American South is heavily black. My English Canadian friend mentioned how surprised he was when he met a black guy from Alabama. I didn't know not everyone understands it isn't maple syrup in maple trees, it's sap is. The sap gets boiled down to syrup. My boss learned at the same time as Curious George. When you drive up to a big box store, Walmart, Kroger, whatever, one side says home, or something similar. One side says fresh, or something similar. Home is the non-food stuff, normally starting with the pharmacy section. Fresh is the food side. My partner had no idea and had just been guessing at which side to go into for the past decade. He just assumed people knew which side because they'd been there before. Computers. I grew up around computers and watched my mom use ours at home often and picked up on how to use it, troubleshoot, etc. Apparently having common knowledge of computers is a rare trait that a lot of people just don't have. It's also apparently not common knowledge anymore for people to be able to count change, read an analog clock, or know the difference between north, south, east, and west. Liquid is bad for computers. Runner up. Fixing computers is expensive if you don't have a warranty, and yes, we do expect you to pay. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.